The highs were really high.
Perfect dish.
I only had 2 and I was feeling loosey-goosey.
Don't change it.
I love finger lime.
S tier.
Yeah, this sweet potato was a hit.
Just a flavor bomb.
Bam! So many peanuts.
This is kind of inexcusable.
I want my Osso Buco to be like swimming.
Look, if you're gonna have only one dessert on the menu, it's gotta be lights out killer.
And like the great Billie Jean King says, pressure is a privilege.
Welcome back to the Aftertaste LA podcast. I'm Vlad.
And I'm Nicole.
We're the chef-writer duo bringing you candid restaurant reviews every other week. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the much-anticipated return of Alta and West Adams.
So a little bit of background for us on this restaurant. Back in February, January, we went to Alta right before it closed for its total revamp. And we had even shot an episode of it. It was in the can. I was getting ready to edit it, and they announced that they were closing to redo everything, service, menu, just everything. So we were like, all right, so we put that away. And now we've returned to officially cover it for Aftertaste LA podcast.
Kind of a full circle moment to see the progression and have in my mind what this restaurant was, and now have a completely different picture of what this restaurant is, what it's trying to be, how it's trying to evolve. It's a fun story, and I think that story starts with the chef owner, Keith Corbin. You know, restaurants are a place that has always been very welcoming in giving someone a second chance, and Chef Keith needed a second chance. He grew up in Watts. He spent a decade in prison, learned how to cook in prison, did not have an easy life. And Daniel Patterson and Roy Choi had this concept called Local in Watts, which was a fast food type of concept. They were trying to bring better quality food to lower income areas. And they hired Chef Keith as a line cook. He worked his way up to chef, and then partnered with Daniel Patterson to open up Alta in 2018. And it was thriving for 8 years, 2 James Beard nominations, Michelin recognized eater called it one of the most influential restaurants of the last 25 years. So it already had a lot of accolades, and Chef Keith really built something.
It's super exciting. He was also on America's Culinary Cup this year and did pretty well on it. Got a lot of name recognition, face recognition, which is great. Also in this new iteration, he also bought out Daniel Patterson. So now he is the sole owner, which is also kind of awesome. Like, awesome for him. That must feel great.
Yeah, that must feel like such a triumph.
Yeah.
To have your own place, have full control, and be able to execute your vision without really any other outside feedback. As far as I can tell from my research, the reason for this closing and remodel and revamp was Chef Keith finally was able to get a passport. You know, if you're an ex-con, it's really hard to get a passport. He was finally able to. He traveled across Europe. He staged in Mexico at a really awesome restaurant and really opened up his worldview on food and cooking. And travel is such an amazing thing, especially if you're a chef and you get to try cuisines in different parts of the world. It really influences how you cook and how you view food. Going through this evolution as a chef, it's natural to want to also evolve the restaurant and the menu and make it feel more true to how he feels now. So that's what we're seeing now with this new iteration of Alta.
Let's get into it. So the drinks program here is pretty extensive. There are lots of cocktails to choose from, including some non-alcoholic cocktails as well as a wine list. And they have a new beverage director who has steered them in really leaning into sourcing from local, Black-owned, women-owned producers of all types, from hard liquor to the wines. You're going to be seeing these ingredients all over. And I think they always kind of did that, but I feel like it's just a little bit more front and center in this menu. There are 4 sections to the cocktails: a signature section, a seasonal section, non-alcoholic, and dessert section. And then, of course, also the wine list, which also includes suggested pairings, which is very nice. I do appreciate that because whenever I'm asking for a wine, I would like it specifically to pair with the food. And I know people have different opinions about what they like, but it's nice to just have that information there for you.
Overall, I'd say the cocktail program has been elevated from the previous iteration.
A little bit more finesse, I would say. I also think it's a little bit more of a focus on fresh produce, which we have so much here in Los Angeles. It feels just a little bit more fresh and seasonal.
It's awesome seeing them use local ingredients, but still keeping the actual cocktails and what they are true to the identity of the restaurant. So let's talk about some of the drinks that we had. We had quite a few. We went with 2 other people, so we were able to try a lot of stuff. We did not drink all of these drinks fully, otherwise we would have been pretty hammered.
Yeah, they were strong.
Very strong.
I only had 2 and I was feeling loosey-goosey.
I actually think the 2 drinks that I had, well, I had 1 wine, but the cocktail I had wasn't as boozy as some of the other ones that were had at the table. Drink that I had off the seasonal section was the watermelon, which had vodka, Aperol, Cointreau, acid-adjusted watermelon, and the compressed watermelon. And it came in a very pretty martini glass, very tart, and not as boozy as I was expecting, and not as sweet as I was expecting.
Yeah, me too. I could have used actually a tad more sweetness to it.
I agree. It was a little bit high in the acidity. That acid-adjusted watermelon may have been too acid-adjusted. The compressed watermelon was a bit underwhelming. It just tasted like watermelon. I would have liked them to infuse it with some sort of citrus or herb or even some sort of alcohol.
I was going to say, that seems like a really good opportunity for a boozy watermelon slice.
Yeah, I love compressed melon of all kinds and infusing it with a rosé or, any kind of a shot type of situation, just giving me that extra little kick. I would have liked that. But it was tasty.
Good watermelon flavor. It definitely tasted like watermelon, which is hard to get.
It's a perfect drink for the summertime, and we are in the very beginning months of the summer, so it was definitely proper to the season.
My first drink was the South Central Cola, which incorporates Loft and Bear rum, house-made cola syrup, lime, and Topo Chico. And Loft and Bear is a local Black-owned distillery. I liked this. I didn't love it. I really wanted more of a punchy cola flavor. I mean, house-made cola syrup. I was so excited. I have had a few other house-made cola kind of things, and I mean, they're not artificial, right? So they're always a little bit less in your face than any of the colas that we're used to that come as a soda.
Yeah, it's not your everyday rum and Coke.
It is not. So this drink is a play on the rum and Coke. Because the syrup wasn't super punchy, the Topo Chico and the rum kind of thinned it out kind of a lot. And then you add the lime in, and because that cola flavor has been diluted a lot, you're really getting a lot of the lime. So it just felt a little bit unbalanced. I did like the flavors in there, but yeah, I just wanted more of that cola syrup.
The drink itself, I just thought it was a little flat. Mm-hmm. And when I think of a rum and Coke, I think something very, very fizzy.
Yeah.
In a tall glass. This was just like a rocks glass. I don't think it's there yet. I love the concept. I love the idea. I think they need to tinker with it a little bit still, and it can improve. One of the other drinks we had was the sweet corn off the seasonal menu, which had Sweet Baby Jane bourbon, sweet corn syrup, lemon lime, egg white. This was a play on a whiskey sour, but with corn flavor. And from what I've read from the corn syrup itself, it kind of tastes like cornbread. It didn't come through crazy, the corn flavor itself, but it was a really well-made drink, really well balanced and tart and proper whiskey sour.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It really just tasted like a whiskey sour to me. I wasn't getting too much of the corn coming through, which is a bummer because I do love corn like juice.
Yeah.
But, you know,
One suggestion I would make for them is get some corn husks. You have a wood fire grill, char those up, make a little powder, garnish on top to give a little bit of smokiness to it and really kind of reinforce the corn flavor. I think that would really elevate it a little bit.
we also had the For Goodness sake. I think that's how it's supposed to be. It's like a play on words because it's a sake drink, but it's like for goodness sake and it's spelled the same. So, teehee.
It's funny. Playful.
So it had Daiginjo sake, sudachi, simple syrup, African pepper, egg white, and finger lime. So this was a lovely, delicate little drink. Daiginjo sake is kind of known for these floral, subtle flavors, and I thought they did a very nice job of preserving that in this drink. You also had the sudachi, which is a citrus. It's a small little citrus from Japan. And then egg white on top, and then the cracked black African pepper just sprinkled on top of the egg white, and the finger lime was the garnish. I'll be honest, the finger lime is really why I ordered this. I love finger lime. It might be my favorite. Is it a citrus? Is it considered a citrus?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gotta
absolutely,
be. Yeah.
absolutely.
I just love it. If you don't know what it is, they're like little limes that are about 2 inches, 1 to 2 inches long. And inside they have this like lime tasting little beads of caviar that are filled with bursting citrusy goodness. I did love the drink as a whole, even though I mostly ordered it for the garnish. The cracked African pepper on top was really nice. It was really aromatic, and because it was caught on the egg white layer, it didn't really get into the drink. So sometimes you can have kind of an unpleasant thing where it falls in and then you have this like weird crumbly texture. So you didn't get that. All you would get when you took a sip, because it's right at your nose, you'd get the aroma of the pepper and the taste of the drink. Almost floral in a way.
Yeah, not too spicy. It was my favorite ingredient in this drink as well. And it's a low ABV drink, so it's very, very mellow, very, very light. If you want something less boozy, this is definitely something to order. I think one note we should point out is it's $35. I believe it's because of the sake they're using is expensive, and there's a lot of exotic ingredients. The sudachi it's a rare ingredient. Finger lime's not common. The African pepper.
Yeah.
So all the combination of all that makes it a little bit more of an expensive experience.
I enjoyed it, but yeah, be aware of that. It is the only drink on the menu that's above the low 20s. So
yeah, most of the drinks are between $19 to $22, which is about average. A little high, but I almost would rather they just make them all $20 to make it easier, but that's very nitpicky. So now that I'm talking about these drinks, I'm realizing I think we had every single drink on the seasonal section. So the next one we had was the carrot, which had Hennessy, Cointreau, carrot juice, carrot foam, and lemon. This was my favorite drink of the evening. I thought it was the most creative. It was really, really pretty, the presentation. They have this like micro baby carrot clipped on top with a little clip that just made it feel seasonal and fresh and really good. Although I don't really think carrot is all that seasonal for June.
that's true.
But carrot's kind of like a year-round thing, so it's more of the freshness of it. It was a very tasty drink, very, very boozy. And I love a carrot drink, actually, and it pairs really, really well with cognac.
Yeah,
So really, really smart. Also pairs really well with orange. So the Cointreau and the carrot. This cocktail was smarter than it appears because of all of the flavors and how they combine together. You don't taste it, it just tastes very well balanced and very, very boozy. But carrot and orange and lemon, these are all very great friends, and they worked really, really well together.
My favorite part of this drink was the carrot foam. Thought the texture was really like fun, and it had a nice mouthfeel to it. You also could smell the carrot very nicely from it when you took a sip. Just a really fun drink. And it looks incredible. Next we had the strawberry rhubarb, which had gin, strawberry rhubarb shrub, lime, and Prosecco. This was the best balanced drink that we had. Strawberry rhubarb, classic combination. It was light, it was fruity, it was sweet, but not too sweet. Just a really easy drinking drink. This is what I want to be sipping on, especially if I'm coming for brunch. It's like that bright, flirty, fun drink.
The shrub was awesome. This is what made this drink really stand out to me and taste a little fermenty and just very well balanced. You nailed it.
I love a shrub.
Love a shrub. What is a shrub?
A shrub is a kind of a vinegar-based syrup used as kind of a base for drink. Usually you combine it with something like a sparkling wine, Prosecco, or even just a sparkling water and then add some other kind of alcohol.
An infusion of sorts. You take a flavor or a fresh ingredient, infuse it with vinegar.
Yeah, usually it's fruit based, and usually it's quite concentrated and sweet.
So to close out the drinks, I had a little bit of rosé. Although it's on the menu, it says sparkling Pinot Noir, but it was a rosé. It was great. It was a big glass. It felt
It was huge.
It felt larger than your normal glass of rosé or sparkling bubbles, anything. And it was $14, which is a lot more affordable than the cocktails, which were in the $20 price range, like we mentioned earlier. After all the drinks that we had on the cocktail menu and the rosé that I had, I am thinking I want more wine from this restaurant. I really, really enjoyed the rosé. I love the pairings, and the price point is a lot more approachable and would pair really well with the food they're serving here, especially this more elevated concept and all of the unique flavors that they're introducing. More leaning towards the wine list.
Yeah, now that we've had so many drinks off of this cocktail list, I think we've found some real standouts that I would keep ordering. But I think if I'm getting 2 drinks at dinner, at least one is going to be the wine.
For sure.
The other thing I'm going to mention, and like this also goes into service, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I realized when I was doing my notes after this meal that they have a whole dessert cocktail section, which is awesome. I love that. I wish that came back to us when we had finished our mains as a separate little menu as an alternative to dessert.
Yeah, I agree.
I forgot they were there, honestly. And when you're sitting down, you're getting like settled in, you're trying to see the food menu and the cocktail menu. There's just a lot going on. I was only looking at the top because I was like, okay, what's the first thing I'm going to drink? It's just a lot to juggle. So by the time we got to dessert, I didn't even think of it. And they have some really cool stuff on there.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good steps of service thing that they should add, especially if you're going to offer coffee. And they only have one dessert, but that is something they should add for sure. Overall, the influence and evolution is very apparent when you look at this menu compared to the previous menu. The previous menu was very, very soul food forward. A little bit of LA and California rolled in there, but now it's a lot more diverse of a menu. There's some Japanese ingredients on there. There's Mexican ingredients, West African. It's still staying true to Chef Keith and his background, but there's a lot more here than there used to be.
It seems wider in both depth and breadth, which is very impressive to be able to improve in both metrics.
The first dish that we had really epitomizes everything that we just mentioned about the evolution of this menu. The West Coast oyster with strawberry mignonette and lemon verbena, green peppercorn. The way it was composed, the way it was plated, how it was dressed up, everything about it was very well balanced. The mignonette, the green peppercorns, the lemon verbena, these are all really great flavors that go together. And the oysters themselves were chosen really well, not too briny. It all just came together. It was a very, very lovely plate. Great way to start the meal.
It looked beautiful when it came to the table. So, they say you eat with your eyes. Check on that. And I loved the strawberry mignonette. I love a mignonette. It's always tart and vinegary. And then you have the strawberries, which I also love. Really nice. I think a lot of places would have gone for a strawberry mignonette with just strawberry juice. But I actually really liked the actual fruit pieces being in there, especially along with the little shreds of lemon verbena as well.
Yeah, that touch of sweetness with the shellfish, a really nice touch. One more thing I want to point out about this oyster dish before we move on. Really appreciated how chilled the plate was that was on. It was served on a salt bed, but the plate itself was very, very cold, which is proper. And you get 2 oysters. I think it's $18, so a little pricey. Probably one of the more elegant dishes on the menu that we had.
This dish was at a level of finesse that I would expect to see from a fine dining restaurant. It was elevated in all the right ways, and it's just showing where they're trying to go with this new iteration of Alta. Our other starter was the black-eyed pea salad, which had crispy ham hock, charred scallion, and West African vinaigrette. I was not expecting this to be a warm dish. Not that I really minded. Just was surprised. I think of a salad as being cold, but I don't know if that's like a rule. It just normally is.
It normally is. It's not a rule. There are no rules.
Yeah.
But there are warm salads, warm composed salads. It does happen.
Yeah.
It's not common.
No. It was fine. I thought the beans were cooked nicely. I liked the vinaigrette. I wish there had been more crispy ham hock. I really didn't get all that much with the spoonfuls that I had. And I also felt like the charredness of the scallion, I wasn't getting much of that either.
It could have definitely had more smoke and char flavor. Because when I think of ham hock, I think of very smoky, and these were very, very light. I loved the vinaigrette and the beans themselves. It was a good starter next to the oyster, very tart, and opened up my palate for the next course. I like the oyster more, but I love black-eyed peas. I'm going to order them when I see them on a menu. They're so nice.
And they're very good for you.
There were a decent amount of crispy ham hocks in there. I think you just got shortchanged by the table. I don't think that's the restaurant's fault. I think we were just greedy.
Maybe, or, maybe like what you were saying, having more of like a intense smoky flavor would have made it feel like I had a bit more.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think that their influence on the dish was as pronounced as it should have been. Another comment, the plate that this came with was very, very warm. Mm-hmm. So they are treating the plates that are being used properly and as they should be as far as temperature goes. The next part of our meal, we ordered some of the vegetable dishes that they have. A lot of them are cooked over wood or fire, and they're very roasty and ember cooked, so let's talk about some of those. First vegetable we had was the Miso-Glazed Japanese eggplant. It had some crispy okra, roasted tomato, a little shiso and lime. It was nice. I wanted there to be a little bit more char on this eggplant. I like a really burnt, smoky, charred eggplant, and it was lightly cooked. The flavors were very, very good and very well balanced, but that was my biggest note about the dish. And the crispy okra, I wanted it to be a little bit more crispy. I think it was not crispy enough for me.
The eggplant itself had a lovely, lovely texture to it. The rest of the dish I liked a little bit less. I thought the toppings were like too big for this eggplant, and you couldn't get all the flavors in a bite. You either had to do tomato or you had to do the okra, and then, cutting a roasted tomato, it's squishing everywhere. It just didn't quite work for me. I really wanted the topping to be something a little bit smaller that would be easier to get with every bite.
Yeah, I could see that, especially like a tomato condiment type of thing to pair with the miso, which was sweet and savory, and then you can have the sweet tomato to balance it all out. The okra felt just out of place, compared to everything else on the dish.
I liked the idea of something crispy. That was right.
It definitely needed crispy texture because of the creaminess of the eggplant. Out of all of the vegetables that we had, this was my least favorite. The flavors were great and the miso was great, but I don't think I would order it again. But The next vegetable we had, I know I would order again.
Yes. So next we had the Ember-Roasted sweet potato, brown butter soy, smoked Fresno chili crisp, and sesame. This was delicious. This is S tier, to use your parlance, S tier sweet potato dish for me. It's not my number one, but man, it's close. I really, really loved the smoked Fresno chili crisp. That was such a welcome addition to this very sweet potato. And the umami that you get from the brown butter soy. What a nice idea. Brown butter soy. Really delicious. And then sesame, of course, goes with everything. And the potato itself was cooked really nicely. Kind of those like charred crispy bits that you were missing on the eggplant. They got them on this potato. It was like a delicious, savory, sweet dessert. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like, it was really enjoyable to eat.
My favorite part about this sweet potato was the skin of the sweet potato. It was so crispy. It was almost like chips. It was such a great textural contrast to the creamy sweet potato. I am not the biggest sweet potato fan in general, and I really loved this sweet potato. I would order it every time I go. It is definitely one of the best vegetable dishes on this menu, at least the ones we had.
Yeah, this sweet potato was a hit.
Yeah, everyone at the table loved it.
Yes.
So the last vegetable that we had, of course, we see cabbage on the menu. We order it. There's a fire-roasted cabbage with a harissa miso-glaze. And then it had this cultured tahini lebna crema, which is difficult to say. Say that 5 times fast. And then it also had this peanut crunch. And this was a delicious cabbage. A cabbage always just keeps impressing us. Maybe it's just the perfect vegetable.
It's a blank slate vegetable. You can combine it with any like cuisine. You can combine it with every flavor profile. Like you can do barbecue. You can do Korean version, like with gochujang. You can do salsa Veracruz, like broken Spanish. Like there's just no version where it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it's such a great thing to be seeing on every menu. Very happy. This one in particular, loved how charred it was. It was very, very well charred. Just a flavor bomb. Yeah. The crema and the tahini, that puree on the bottom was so flavorful, so tart, unique flavor. I loved it. I thought it was such a great thing to pair with the spicy harissa and the peanut crunch. It was just a great cabbage dish. Great dish. You could have done this with a lot of different vegetables, all these flavor combos. It would have worked.
I loved the harissa glaze on it. However, I am a little bit of a lightweight when it comes to spice. So that crema underneath really saved me. And then also it was delicious. And then I was just eating it by the spoonful because it was so good. Also, big thank you for how much peanut crunch was on top. They really went for it. They literally covered the top of it with the peanut crunch.
Yeah.
And it was great. That is the amount that you should have. It needed it because cabbage, it becomes quite soft when you cook it. So you want that crunch. So bam, so many peanuts.
I thought this was a perfect dish. Don't change it. S tier.
Absolutely.
There is one note, one little thing about this cabbage dish that I want to talk about, and it's the price. It's $25.
That's a lot.
We've had a lot of cabbage dishes in Los Angeles in different levels of restaurant, fine dining, not fine dining, whatever. We have never paid for a cabbage dish more than $20. I think $19 was the most expensive one that we've had. There aren't any very exotic ingredients on this dish, so I do think it's a bit steep for what it is. $25 for a vegetable dish like this is a bit high. And I don't normally complain or mention price. This was a bit up there.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what the justification is for charging $25 for that. As far as food cost goes, in my brain, I know cabbage is very, very cheap. There wasn't a whole lot of expensive ingredients on this plate, and the actual prep of it is not all that complex, so I think it's a little overpriced.
Yeah. It's a lot for a vegetable.
That wraps up the middle of our meal. Our meal kind of went through these phases. We had our starters, then we had our vegetable course, and then now we're going to talk about the entrees we had.
So our first main that we're going to talk about was the Confit Duck Leg, which is served with black garlic mole and potato pave. However, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you may notice that there are fingerling potatoes on our plate, not a pave.
Yes, I don't really know what happened there.
We were not warned of it, and frankly, we did not notice until we came home to do our notes.
I don't know if it was a mistake or they ran out of pave and they just had to use fingerlings. Because once you run out of pave, you can't just quickly make some.
Right, that was my question. Usually it's hours or even a couple, like 24 hours, right?
You gotta make it. It's gotta sit overnight. It's gotta be pressed. It's a whole process. Pave is a labor of love.
Yes.
That's why when we went to Herman's, the potato fritters are kind of a pave, and it says limited quantities. Once they're out, they're out.
Right.
So to me, this is kind of inexcusable. If you run out of a core ingredient on a dish, you don't substitute another ingredient. You 86 it until you can make more. This is kind of shortchanging people. We didn't realize it, like you said. We looked at the menu later and we're like, oh, wait, that didn't come with pave. So at the time, we weren't upset. I think after the fact, once I realized, I was a little bit upset.
Yeah. And I really enjoy a pave.
Me too.
So that was sad to not have that experience. And
Although I will say the potatoes that came with this duck were very, very good.
they were, but it would have dressed up the dish quite a bit to have a pave on there instead of fingerlings.
100%. It would have definitely elevated it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about everything else because this actually was pretty good.
Yeah. So as you may know, I love duck. Duck confit, though, I have a love-hate relationship with. A lot of times it can be very greasy, though it retains a lot of moistness in the meat. However, this one was a really nice combination. I did not find it greasy. I thought that the black garlic mole was a perfect accompaniment and had enough of a punch to kind of cut through any of that richness that might have been remaining. The mole had a great flavor. Black garlic is awesome. It was a super deep, nice, like caramelly, nutty kind of flavor. I really, really enjoyed the sauce.
The sauce was lights out. I almost feel like it's not a mole and more of a demi-glace with mole flavors, which was really impressive to me. The flavors and depth here was really, really refined. And the texture of the sauce was very, very sticky in a really French way.
I was going to say it was a lovely marriage of Mexican culture with French technique.
Yes, I agree.
Which is, I think, that's what they're going for here. Elevated technique with Angelino culture and ingredients and cuisine.
Had the pave been on the plate, that point would have been enforced even further.
Absolutely.
Because everything else that was on this plate was very, very good. And I would order it again. But next time I go, I want to make sure that I'm getting my pave.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious what happened. I wonder.
Yeah.
We'll never know. So we also had the wood-grilled half chicken. It had this tagine barbecue spice, suya herb sauce, and grilled avocados. This chicken really surprised me. It was so good. It was flavorful. It was juicy. It was charred. The sauce was killer. Grilled avocados, I don't understand grilled avocados. I don't think avocados should be grilled. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't improve them. Am I wrong? How do you feel about this?
I feel like I have yet to have one that I have enjoyed, but I believe there is a way to make them that would be enjoyable.
Okay, well, when you figure that out, You let me know.
Well, we're gonna have to get a grill for that.
Or if a restaurant figures it out. I've been yet to be wowed by it. I also thought that it didn't make sense on the plate.
I thought that the presentation of it made no sense. Like, it was just this quartered avocado kind of rolling around, sliding around
Yeah.
as the plate was passed around. It didn't look great.
No, everything else though, the actual chicken itself was delicious.
The tagine barbecue, oh my gosh, that killed me. I had no kind of expectation for what that was really going to be like. It was a little bit almost drier, almost like a dry rub, but also a sauce. Very thick on the meat
Yeah.
and just so full of flavor.
They
It
must
was
be
lovely.
marinating this meat overnight in that because it was it was punchy and very well marinated. This was a great chicken dish. This is a top tier chicken dish in LA.
Yeah.
The sauce, I kept coming back to that sauce. This like suya herb sauce, which I had to look it up, was this Nigerian sauce, and it was killer.
Yeah.
Almost reminded me of like a chimichurri,
Yeah, in a way,
but
African.
the only note I have about this chicken dish is I wanted a little starch with it.
Especially to soak up that delicious sauce.
Yeah, absolutely. It needed that. Instead of the grilled avocados, give me some starch,
Yeah.
some rice or something.
Our last main was the West African Osso Buco, which was tomato coconut braised lamb and semolina couscous. I love Osso Buco. I was very excited for this with the West African spices. That made a lot of sense in my brain, and it was really tasty. The tomato coconut braising sauce, though, I just wanted more of it, especially because the semolina couscous underneath was very, very plain. And I think that would have been fine had it really been sauced heavily so that you could kind of, wet your whistle because the couscous is kind of dry.
Yeah. I think there's a really big missed opportunity here because traditionally Osso Buco is veal, and it's served with polenta. When we first went to Alta, one of our favorite things that we had on the original menu was the oxtail and grits, which I really hope they bring it back for brunch because it was so, so good. I would have taken that couscous and put it on the chicken and then give me some really good grits that I know you know how to make really, really well. And give me that Osso Buco, those grits. That would have been so good. The lamb itself was really, really well cooked, really tender. The flavors were really great. I did not really care for the couscous. I agree with you. Very plain, too much of it, and it soaked up all the sauce, which I wanted.
Right, right. I want my Osso Buco to be like swimming.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. I'm with you there.
But yeah, I loved the meat. The lamb was super tender, fall off the bone, delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple notes here and there, but for the most part, it was very good.
Yes. Okay. To dessert.
Yes, let's talk about the only dessert they have.
Yes, they only have one dessert on the menu.
Chocolate cake, koji caramel ice cream, some smoked cultured cream, cocoa soil. Look, if you're gonna have only one dessert on the menu, it's gotta be lights out killer, and this wasn't.
Yeah, I love dessert. I love chocolate, and I love chocolate cake. It was just very dry.
The cake itself.
The cake itself was very, very dry.
The ice cream was delicious.
The ice cream was great. I'd rather have a scoop of that than this whole plate.
I've said it at the table, I wanted this cake to be a lava cake. With that ice cream, it would have been, that's how you make this dessert from what it is now to lights out delicious. Especially for $22. It's not a huge piece of cake. 4 of us did split it. We each had a bite or two, but what we got for the price and how it was executed, I just thought was lacking.
Yeah, the smoked cultured cream underneath, I didn't really get the cultured taste, nor did I really get the smoked. Mostly what I was getting from it was salt. which was kind of odd, especially when the cultured labna crema
Yeah, it was so good.
was
Yeah.
so good. I was kind of expecting something like that to blow my socks off again, and it did not. Cocoa soil, can't go wrong there. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I love a crunchy cocoa thing. I will say the first time we went, I noticed that they had like a cake stand on the line, like at the chef's counter, where they were just cutting slices of cake for people. And I know they want to be more refined and everything, but that cake really looked bomb. And I don't think that's necessarily like too dressed down if you serve it with a nice set. So I'd almost rather have that.
That ice cream was phenomenal.
Yes.
The ice cream was phenomenal. I would order a scoop of the ice cream.
Yes.
As I also think if you already have the ice cream on the menu, you should put that on there.
Well, that
A scoop
goes
of
back
ice
to
cream?
what I was saying about there was no dessert menu.
Right.
We had to either remember it or have our server tell us, have that on there, have the cake on there, have the dessert cocktails on there. In the future, I will definitely be going for the dessert cocktails, like absolutely 100%.
Well, okay, so let's close out our overall thoughts on the menu here because we need to give them a little bit of slack. They've been open for a week.
Yes.
Or 2 weeks, something like
Yeah.
that. It has not been long. So
No.
this is almost, we have to treat it like a brand new restaurant. It's a brand new team, brand new menu. They're still learning, they're still kind of tweaking. So there's clearly some work to be done here, but a lot of what we had was very, very promising, very, very delicious.
The highs are really high. And when you're comparing one to one, what we had the first time we went before the closure and what we had this time, you can see so much growth, so much maturity, so much thought went into evolving this cuisine. I think they're going to continue to refine. They are very new. We should go back. We will go back to see what happens, but I'm optimistic for their future with the building blocks that they have here in the flavor.
You just see the evolution of Chef Keith, and from where we were in January to where we are now, if it continues on that path, it's only going to improve. They're also going to get feedback from the guests. They're going to get notes. They're going to get reviews and make adjustments along the way like any restaurant would. So they should be prepared for a little bit of criticism, especially since they have raised the prices, raised the expectations, raised the bar. With that comes raised expectations from their guests.
Absolutely. And like the great Billie Jean King says, pressure is a privilege. People having higher expectations for you, that should be a welcome thing. I think it is. That seems to be his attitude about this chapter as well. So I'm really excited for him, and I'm really excited for this restaurant.
Yeah, I want to see how it progresses. He's getting to cook food that he wants to cook, not food that he feels like he has to cook. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge change.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time to get it down. But some of the changes that I've seen with the plating and the presentation and the techniques and the overall flavors have been a huge step up. So I'm looking forward to the future for him. I'm very, very happy for him and the restaurant and wish them the best.
So you started getting a little bit into the presentation of plates and the space. Let's talk about that.
They have really done a great job of improving the ambiance. When we came here the first time, we did not feel like it was a great ambiance. The decor was kind of lacking and it just felt very, very plain and dull, and it didn't have an identity.
It felt a little tired. It felt lived in. I think that even something as small as the menu physically has changed entirely. It used to be like one of those menus that you slip into the plastic sleeve.
Yeah.
With like the metal corners around it. Not exactly luxe, right? Now it's on a very nice paper. It's a custom size. It has a little raw edge at the bottom. It has their Alta kind of logo embossed on it. They have upgraded, and it's so smart because the menu is the first thing that you touch with your hands when you sit down.
Yeah.
So it's really setting the tone for your experience as a diner. I mean, besides looking around, that's like your first real interaction physically.
Yeah, and the way that the menu was presented when we sat at the table, there was a really, really nice folded cloth napkin that was clearly thought through. The plateware has all been revamped and thought through. That everything has just been elevated to another tier.
They've added candles to the table, a little bit more art, new art. I actually feel like they could lean into the art more. I know they're very interested in showcasing local and Black artists, which I loved. There's so much character and personality, and it goes great with the ambiance and the food that they are serving. I want even more.
Yeah, there was a lot of amazing art on the
Yeah.
walls, and it is all local artists, so that is also really great. Supporting the community, creating community. The decor itself, the color schemes, I thought were very, very earthy and inviting. The booth that we sat in was extremely comfortable. It almost felt like a couch. A lot of pillows and cushions. It was very comfortable in there.
Yeah.
The music level was at a perfect volume. I think they've done a lot of soundproofing in the renovation to make it a little bit less loud. I think one of the complaints early on was it was very, very loud in there. So it didn't feel that way at all. It was packed, it was busy, and it was loud, but it wasn't overwhelming. They have done a great job with the renovation and the revamp as far as the aesthetics. Okay, so let's move on to the service.
Okay.
You want to start or you want me to start?
I'll start. I think the service was the weakest part of this meal, unfortunately. Our server was very nice, but this is a place that they are really going to have to make some strides to bring this up to the level that they are looking for, clearly.
Yeah.
They're trying. They're working on it. Again, they just reopened. I do think service is probably the thing that like takes the longest to like really dial in and make it perfect.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So things that went a little wrong.
I think it was because there were so many different things that went wrong with our meal in one sitting. That's why we have these notes. But I think these are very, very fixable.
Yeah, they are.
These are fixable mistakes.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's go down the list.
Another thing I want to say, everyone was excited to be there. They all had a smile on their face. They were happy to interact with us. So that goes a long way. That's always nice to have.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like these problems will be fixed.
Yeah.
Because people are motivated to fix them.
I agree. I don't think these were mistakes made because of lack of caring.
Yeah.
It's the first week.
Yes.
They're going to clean some of this up.
So here are some of the things that we noticed. First of all, our first round of drinks got refired after we had already finished our drinks. So something got mixed up behind the bar. They made it all the way to our table. We sent them back because we didn't order them. So that's a loss on their part, not for us, but...
They also took a really long time to get the food to us. Throughout the meal, it did improve, but it took over 20 minutes to get those oysters and our first round of drinks. And those aren't things that take all that long to make. It's not like there's a cooking. The pacing of the meal was definitely off. Another thing that happened was half the table ordered sparkling water, half the table ordered still. The busters that were walking around with tap water refilling cups filled my sparkling water and the other person's sparkling water with tap water because they didn't ask or realize, but there's a bottle of sparkling water on the table, so that's something they should have noticed. They ended up having to give us a free bottle of sparkling water because it happened multiple times throughout the course of the meal.
Lastly, and this is the one thing that I actually kind of do care about and kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. We were mostly done with our dessert, and our server came by to ask us if we were done and she could take it away and close us out, or if we were still enjoying it. And, because of the delays with service, it had been a long meal. We were there for almost 2.5 hours. So I was ready to get out of there, but I wasn't quite ready to let go of the dessert. So I said, well, we can close out and we'll just finish the last few bites after we do that. And she said, no, you have to either, I need to take this away or you need to finish it before you close out, which was mind-blowing to me. I mean, it felt very much like, finish your food. That plate has to be clean.
I've never seen that or heard of such a thing in service.
It was crazy.
I just don't understand why I need to finish my meal before paying.
Yeah.
Don't you want to just get me closed out? I promise you, I'm not going to linger longer.
I mean, there were maximum 2 bites of that cake left on the plate.
Yeah, I never heard of. I went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
When I came back and you told me that, I was like, "What do you mean?
Well, that's what we
close
said.
The check?"
Right. You were like, it does not compute.
No.
And when we were sitting there, the other 3 of us, we were looking at each other like, wait, what? Huh? And she walks away. We're like, all right.
My only explanation for why this would be a thing is they don't want someone to close out their check and then linger for 30 minutes. So they want to make sure that your table is cleared so that when you close out the check, you get out of there. Now, that's fine, but there are better ways to communicate that or facilitate that behavior. Don't even offer to close me out. This is a policy. If the policy is don't close a check until the table is cleared, you can't give the guest that information. Clear the table. Are you still enjoying that dessert? Yes? No? Okay, if you clear it, okay, here's your check.
And to be rushed after waiting so long for multiple courses of our food is just crazy.
I highly suggest that they alter this policy because it is silly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. If you are trying to speed up the pace of service or get turntables, there are better ways to do it than this. This is not a good hospitality move.
No, it's not. And I'm also they've only been reopened a week. If this is not a recurring issue, maybe just leave it alone until it is a recurring issue and it's an issue.
Yeah.
It seems really weird to come back and be like, finish your plate or you can't close out.
There are very, very few occasions where you should say no to a guest, especially when it comes to something that is legitimately just a made-up policy. It's not like, no, you can't do that, we don't have it, if there's a modification, but just no, you can't pay until you finish your food. I've never heard that. I've never heard another restaurant doing that. No. That's new to me.
I also don't get the logic because my logic as a diner is I want to pay now so that the minute I swallow my last bite, I can just leave, which I feel gets me out faster, not slower.
Again, there was just some missteps with the service. Things they can clean up, and I think they will clean it up. It just seemed like the staff was very green.
Super green.
So,
but super excited. And they will learn.
Yeah. Some positives about the service was everyone was very personable and happy. They all seemed like they were working really well together as a team.
They said hello to me when I was walking to the bathroom, when we were walking in. That's always very nice, very welcome, very welcoming.
A lot of bright, smiling faces. I saw Chef Keith walking the dining room, greeting guests, saying hellos, asking how everything is, which is very old school. That's what a chef should be doing when they have the time. He was back in the kitchen working. It was an open kitchen, so it was a really great environment. The energy of the place was really awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was bustling. People were having a great time.
Yeah, all the guests were very happy. Everyone was enjoying it. And one last thing we forgot to mention is they also have a little wine shop next door. And I saw a really long communal table there. I think they were having a little party. So I think you can buy out the wine shop if you want to have a little private dining session there.
Yeah, I bet that would be really lovely.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, so we've talked about everything. Let's talk about our verdict.
So here at Aftertaste LA, we rate restaurants on a scale from 1 to 4 taste buds. 1 taste bud means you can skip it. 2 taste buds means if you're in the neighborhood, it's worth a visit. 3 taste buds means it's worth a trek. And 4 taste buds means you gotta go. For Alta, in its brand new iteration, 2.0, we are giving it 2 taste buds. The reason for that, as we've discussed, the food really shows a lot of promise and a lot of growth. The flavors are on point. There are a couple things that maybe could be improved, but when it comes to the overall experience, ambiance is great. Service needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, this new iteration shows a lot of promise, and we expect them to improve over time. The cooking here is really, really solid and really, really humbled. Love the story of Chef Keith, and it's a really great neighborhood restaurant. If you're in the neighborhood, stop by.
Well, that's all for this week of Aftertaste LA. Our next episode will be coming out in 2 weeks. See you then.